I never thought I'd say this, but there are worse things than being a widow. I discovered that on a Friday night in September, 15 years after I buried my husband Thomas, when I learned that my son was planning to bury me while I was still breathing. The captain's table always smelled like melted butter and old money, the kind of place where the waiters knew your name and your usual order before you sat down. Thomas proposed to me there in 1982, on the upper deck overlooking the Pacific. The ocean was the same that night, dark and infinite beyond the restaurant's floor-to-ceiling windows, but everything else had changed. "To Grandpa Thomas," Michael said, raising his wine glass. The candlelight caught the Rolex on his wrist, the one I'd bought him last Christmas because Stephanie said it would help with his business image. 15 years gone, but never forgotten. He'd be so proud of the family legacy we're building together. I felt my throat tighten. Michael looked so much like his father in that moment. The same strong jaw, the same easy smile. Stephanie squeezed his hand, her engagement ring, also from me, $18,000, but who's counting, glittering like a small chandelier. Tyler, my grandson, sat across from me, picking at his lobster tail with the kind of disinterest only an 18-year-old could muster. "Thank you, sweetheart," I said, my voice cracking just a little. "Your father would be proud of you, Michael, of all of you." Stephanie leaned forward, her smile sharp and white as the tablecloth. "Margaret, you've been so generous with us. Michael and I were just saying how lucky we are to have you." She had that breathy quality to her voice, the one she used in her Instagram videos when she was selling overpriced yoga mats to desperate housewives. The waiter appeared with our entrees, twin lobsters for Michael and Stephanie, the seared ahi for Tyler, and the cioppino for me. I'd requested Thomas's favorite dish, even though the smell of it always made me a little sad now. 15 years, and I could still see him across this same table, butter on his chin, laughing at some terrible joke. "Grandma, this is really nice," Tyler said quietly. It was the first full sentence he'd spoken all evening. His eyes met mine, deep brown like Thomas's, and for just a second I thought I saw something there. Worry? Guilt? I couldn't place it. "Anything for my family," I said, meaning it with every cell in my body. We ate and talked, or rather, Michael and Stephanie talked while Tyler and I listened. Michael's latest business venture, something about cryptocurrency and real estate, I could never quite follow it. Stephanie's follower count, approaching 50K, apparently this was important. Tyler's college applications, he was remarkably quiet about those. The evening passed in that pleasant, expensive blur that nice restaurants create. The wine was good, the ocean was eternal, my family was around me. I picked up the check, $487.50, not including tip, and didn't even flinch. What was money for, if not this? We walked out together into the parking lot, the September air carrying that particular California coastal chill that cuts right through your cashmere. I hugged each of them. Michael's cologne was too strong. Stephanie's perfume was worse. Tyler's hug lasted a fraction longer than necessary. "Love you, Mom," Michael said. "Drive safe." "Love you too, sweetheart." I watched them drive away. Michael's BMW, lease payment courtesy of me. Stephanie waving from the passenger seat like she was in a parade. Then I got into my own car, a sensible Lexus Thomas had bought me before he died, and started the engine. I was 2 miles down Pacific Coast Highway when I realized my purse was still at the restaurant. The captain's table was dark when I returned. The main dining room lights dimmed, chairs already stacked on tables. I tried the front door, locked. I could see movement in the back, probably the kitchen staff cleaning up. I knocked, gently at first, then harder. A face appeared in the glass. Emily, one of the younger waitresses, maybe 25. She looked at me, and I watched something strange cross her face. Not surprise. Something worse. Fear? She opened the door just wide enough for her body to block the entrance. "Mrs. Hayes, did you forget something?" "My purse. I think I left it at the table." "Oh, yes, we have it in the back office. I'll get it for you." But she didn't move. Her hand was shaking on the door frame. "Emily, are you all right?" She glanced over her shoulder, then back at me. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Mrs. Hayes, I need to show you something, but you have to promise me you won't pass out, okay? And you have to promise you won't tell anyone I showed you." The ocean wind picked up, carrying the salt smell of low tide and rotting kelp. My chest felt suddenly tight. "Show me what?" "The security footage, from your table tonight." She opened the door wider, her face pale in the parking lot lights. "I saw it when I was getting your purse. I shouldn't have looked, but the monitor was right there, and I heard—" She stopped. "Just come with me, please." I followed her through the darkened restaurant, past the ghost-white tablecloths and sleeping wine bottles. The back office was small, cramped, smelling of cigarettes and printer toner. A security monitor sat on the desk, divided into 6 squares showing different angles of the restaurant. Emily's finger touched the screen, the top left square, our table, still occupied. "This is from about 5 minutes after you left," she said. She clicked play. On the grainy footage, I watched Michael lean back in his chair. I watched Stephanie pull something from her purse. Papers, folded. I watched Tyler stare down at his plate like he wanted to disappear into it. Then I heard my son's voice, tinny through the cheap speakers but perfectly clear. "I'm telling you, she's so far gone she'll sign anything I put in front of her. The dementia evaluation's already done. Eleanor wrote exactly what we needed. By Christmas, the beach house is ours, and we can finally stop pretending to give a shit about her boring stories." Stephanie's laugh was like breaking glass. "Your mom's so clueless. Did you see her crying over the Cioppino? I thought she was going to have a breakdown right there." "That's the beauty of it," Michael continued. "Everyone already thinks she's losing it. Who's going to question us? She's old, she's sad, she's confused. We're the concerned family members taking care of things." Brad's voice. I hadn't even seen Brad at the restaurant, but there he was on the edge of the frame, leaning in. "And once she's declared incompetent, we can—" Emily clicked pause. The frozen image showed Michael's face, mid-laugh. My son, my only child. The baby I'd rocked through colic and night terrors. The boy I'd raised alone after Thomas died, working double shifts at the hospital to keep him in private school. I wasn't aware I'd sat down until I felt the office chair beneath me. The room tilted. The smell of cigarettes was overwhelming. "Mrs. Hayes?" Emily's hand on my shoulder. "Should I call someone?" I thought about Tyler's quiet dinner conversation, the way he'd looked at me. He knew. My grandson knew what they were planning, and he'd sat there through 2 courses and dessert, saying nothing. Something cold settled in my chest. Not grief. I'd no grief anywhere. I'd lived with it for 15 years. This was different. This was the moment you realize that the people you'd die for have been planning your funeral while you're still breathing. "No," I heard myself say. My voice sounded strange, flat, like it was coming from underwater. "Don't call anyone. Can you make me a copy of that footage?" Emily nodded quickly. "I already did. I put it on a flash drive. I don't know what I thought, but you needed to know." She handed me the small device and my purse. I stood up, surprised that my legs still worked. Behind me, on the frozen screen, Michael's face was caught mid-laugh, celebrating my dementia, planning my erasure. "Thank you, Emily," I said. "You're a good girl." I walked back through the dark restaurant, through the door, into the parking lot where the ocean wind was picking up speed. I sat in my car for a long time, purse in my lap, flash drive in my hand. I didn't cry. That surprised me. I thought I would cry. Instead, I felt something else rising up in my chest, something old and sharp and utterly clear. Thomas used to say I was too kind for my own good, that people would take advantage. I'd always laughed it off. Not anymore. I put the car in drive and headed not toward home, but toward downtown Ocean View, where my lawyer kept late hours and owed me several favors. If Michael wanted to see his mother lose her mind, I'd show him crazy. Before we continue the story, leave a like and comment your age and where you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this story has reached. Robert Chen's office smelled like old books and new leather, with undertones of the Chinese takeout he lived on during tax season. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, making everything look slightly sickly, or maybe that was just how I felt. My coffee had gone cold in its paper cup an hour ago, but I kept holding it anyway, needing something to do with my hands. "Play it again," I said. Robert looked at me over his reading glasses, his face creased with concern. He'd been Thomas's college roommate, our best man, and the closest thing to family I had outside of Michael. "Margaret, you've watched it 4 times already. You don't need to torture yourself. Play it again." He sighed and clicked the mouse. The video started from the beginning, the moment I stood up from the table, purse forgotten on my chair. I watched myself walk away, watched myself disappear from frame. Then I counted. 5 seconds, 10 seconds. 15 seconds after I left, Michael's entire posture changed. The dutiful sun melted away, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. He signaled the waiter for another bottle of wine, the expensive stuff, the $200 Bordeaux, and turned to Stephanie with a grin that made my stomach turn. "She actually teared up over the Chiopino," he said, loud enough for the camera's microphone to pick up clearly. "I thought we'd have to carry her out on a stretcher." Stephanie threw her head back laughing, her hair extensions catching the candlelight. "Your mother is so predictable. Anything for my family," she mimicked, her voice high and trembling in a cruel parody of mine. She's been saying that line for 5 years straight. It's like she doesn't have any other personality traits. Brad Thornton appeared from somewhere off camera, sliding into my empty chair. I hadn't seen him at the restaurant. He must have been waiting at the bar. He was wearing a cheap suit that pulled across his shoulders, his face already flushed from drinking. "So we're doing this?" Brad asked, pulling a folder from inside his jacket. "Because I'm not going down for fraud again. I need guarantees." "Relax," Michael said, topping off everyone's wine glass with my expensive Bordeaux. "I told you, Eleanor already signed off on the dementia evaluation. According to her expert medical opinion, my mother is suffering from early-onset Alzheimer's and is no longer competent to manage her own affairs." Robert paused the video. "Eleanor Whitmore. She's that woman from your bridge club?" "Was," I said, my voice hollow. "We had a falling out last year over some charity committee nonsense. I thought we'd moved past it." I laughed, but it sounded wrong, broken. "Apparently she's been holding a grudge." "She's not a licensed medical professional anymore," Robert said, typing rapidly on his laptop. "Let me check. Yes, she retired from nursing in 2019. This evaluation is completely fraudulent. She has no legal standing to diagnose anyone with anything." On the screen, Michael's frozen face smiled out at me. Robert clicked play again. "The judge is already lined up," Brad was saying. "Marcus got his golf buddy, Judge Harrison. He'll sign the incompetency order the same day we file. Then we go to the bank, transfer everything into the emergency trust we set up, and your mother won't be able to access a dime without your approval." "And the beach house?" Stephanie leaned forward, her eyes bright with greed. "Because that's the real prize. Do you know how many followers I could get with that location? The sunrise shots alone." "The house transfers to Michael as primary caregiver," Brad said, consulting the papers. "But here's the beautiful part. We can sell it immediately. The market's hot right now. We're looking at $2, $3 million, easy, split 3 ways, minus my consulting fee." "Wait." Tyler's voice, quiet and miserable. "You're selling Grandma's house? The one where Dad grew up? Where you taught me to swim, Dad?" I watched Michael's face harden. "Tyler, we've been over this. Your grandmother doesn't need a house that big. She can barely navigate the stairs anymore. We're doing this for her own good." "By stealing everything and putting her in a home?" Tyler pushed back from the table. "This is wrong. This is really, really wrong." "Your father is protecting his inheritance," Stephanie snapped, all pretense of sweetness gone. "Grow up, Tyler. This is how the real world works. Old people lose their minds, and their families step in. It's called responsibility." "It's called fraud," Tyler said. Michael's hand came down on the table hard enough to rattle glasses. "Enough. You're either with us or against us, and if you're against us, you can forget about that college fund. You think your grandmother's going to keep paying your tuition once she's in a care facility? Wake up. I watched my grandson's face crumple, watched him sink back into his chair and stare at his plate, watched him become complicit through silence. Robert stopped the video. There's more. Another 10 minutes of them planning the details, where they'll put me, some nursing home in Fresno, 5 hours away. How they'll tell people I asked for it. How concerned they'll seem. My hands were shaking. I set down the cold coffee before I dropped it. Robert, they've thought of everything. Not quite everything. Robert pulled up another screen on his computer. Brad Thornton served 18 months for securities fraud in 2019. Released on parole in 2021 with strict conditions. No involvement in any financial transactions, no contact with anyone over the age of 65 in a business capacity, mandatory check-ins with his parole officer. And he just violated all 3 of those conditions on camera. Robert's smile was grim. The moment he sat down at that table with you, a 65-year-old woman, and discussed fraudulent financial documents, he became eligible for parole revocation. He could go back to prison for the remainder of his original sentence, another 4 years. I felt something stir in my chest, not quite hope, something harder. What about Michael and Stephanie? Conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse, forgery if they actually try to use those documents. Robert ticked them off on his fingers. But Margaret, I need you to understand something. This is your son. If we pursue this criminally, he'll likely face jail time. Are you prepared for that? The question hung in the air between us. Outside Robert's window, Ocean View was settling into its usual Friday night rhythm. Couples heading to late dinners, teenagers cruising Pacific Coast Highway, the endless Pacific rolling in and out like breathing. I thought about Michael at 6 years old, crying because his father missed his Little League game. I'd worked a double shift at the hospital, came straight to the field still in my scrubs, caught the last 2 innings. Michael had hit his first home run that day. I could still see his face when he rounded third base and saw me in the stands. Pure joy. I thought about Michael at 15 after Thomas died. The way he'd tried to be the man of the house, carrying groceries, mowing the lawn, pretending he wasn't crying in his room at night. I'd sat outside his door so many times, listening to his grief, wanting to fix it, and knowing I couldn't. I thought about Michael at 25, introducing me to his first wife, Jennifer. The way he'd looked at her like she was the whole world. The way he'd called me 3 days after the wedding to say, "Thanks, Mom, for everything, for raising me right." When had that Michael disappeared? Or had he ever really existed at all? My phone buzzed on Robert's desk, a text message from an unknown number. "Grandma, it's Tyler. I'm using a friend's phone. They don't know I'm texting you. I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you, but Dad said he'd cut me off completely. Please, can we talk? I'll tell you everything." I stared at the message, then at the frozen video screen where my son's face was caught mid-laugh, celebrating my destruction. "I want to press charges," I heard myself say, "against all of them. But not yet." Robert raised an eyebrow. "Not yet?" "They think I'm losing my mind. They think I'm easy prey." I stood up, my legs steadier than they'd been at the restaurant. "So let's give them what they expect. I'll play the confused old woman. I'll be forgetful, disoriented, whatever they need to see. And while they're congratulating themselves on how clever they are, we'll build an airtight case. That's risky. If they get you to sign something before we're ready, they won't." I picked up my purse, the same purse that had started this whole nightmare. "Because you're going to file emergency paperwork tonight, making you my power of attorney for all medical and financial decisions, backdated to last week. If they try anything, those documents they're carrying are worthless." Robert smiled then, slow and dangerous. "Thomas always said you were tougher than you looked." Thomas was right. I texted Tyler back, "Tomorrow, the beach, 7 a.m., come alone." His response was immediate. "I'll be there, Thank you, Grandma. I love you. I wanted to believe him. God, how I wanted to believe him. But I'd spent 15 years believing Michael loved me, and look where that had gotten me. The drive home took 20 minutes. I passed the captain's table, dark now except for security lights. Past the turnoff to Michael's apartment complex, where my monthly checks kept the rent paid. Past the beach access point where I'd taught Tyler to surf when he was 12. The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway. 47 Cypress Drive. The house Thomas built with his own hands over 3 summers. The house where we'd raised Michael, where we'd hosted Christmases and birthdays and the wake after Thomas's funeral. The house my son was planning to sell out from under me. I let myself in and stood in the entryway, breathing in the familiar scent of old wood and sea salt and lavender sachets. The photos on the wall chronicled 30 years of family. Michael's first day of school, Thomas and me on our 20th anniversary, Tyler blowing out birthday candles. Tomorrow morning I'd see my grandson and find out how deep his betrayal went. Tomorrow afternoon Michael would probably call, playing the concerned son, moving his chess pieces into position. But tonight, I had the security footage. I had Robert. I had the law on my side. And I had something else. Something Michael had forgotten I possessed after 15 years of widowhood and supposed decline. I had nothing left to lose. The beach at 7 in the morning was cold enough to make my bones ache. I wrapped my cardigan tighter and watched the Pacific roll itself against the shore in endless repetition. The sun was just breaking over the hills behind Ocean View, turning the water from black to gray to that particular shade of blue that always reminded me of Thomas's eyes. Tyler was late. I'd bought 2 coffees from the gas station on the way. Terrible coffee, burnt and bitter, nothing like the French press Thomas used to make every morning. But it was hot, and the steam rising from the cups reminded me I was still here, still breathing, still capable of fighting back. A figure appeared on the coastal path, hoodie pulled up, hands shoved in pockets. Tyler walked like Michael used to walk at that age. Long strides, shoulders hunched like the weight of the world was pressing down. Maybe it was. He sat on the bench beside me without saying anything. I handed him a coffee. We both stared at the ocean. "I'm a coward," he finally said. "You're 18. "That's not an excuse." His voice cracked. "You've been paying for everything. My car insurance, my phone, the college application fees. You came to every one of my water polo games, even the away ones. And I sat there last night and let them—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "I let them talk about putting you in a home in Fresno. Stephanie showed me pictures. It looked like a prison, Grandma." The seagulls screamed overhead, diving for scraps near the trash cans. The sound was harsh, unforgiving. Good. I didn't want forgiveness right now. I wanted information. "How long have they been planning this?" Tyler pulled out his phone. "Since June. 4 months. Dad lost another business deal, some investment thing with Brad that went south. He owed people money. Serious people, I think. He was scared. So he decided to steal from his mother. Stephanie pushed it. She's obsessed with the house, with your money. She has a whole Pinterest board called Coastal Dreams. It's full of photos of your beach house and captions about manifesting abundance and claiming what's yours." He scrolled through his phone, showed me screenshot after screenshot. There was my living room, my deck, my bedroom with the ocean view, all captioned with Stephanie's inspirational nonsense. My hands tightened around the coffee cup. What else? They picked out the nursing home in March, before the plan was even solid. Dad said it needed to be far away so you couldn't wander back, and so visitors would be inconvenient. Tyler's voice was shaking now. He said people would understand. Everyone knows old people get confused and need care. He practiced his concerned son voice in the car. The sun climbed higher. A jogger passed us, earbuds in, oblivious. The world kept turning while mine fell apart. Eleanor's evaluation. When did that happen? Last month. Dad paid her $5,000. She wrote that you showed signs of short-term memory loss, confusion about dates, difficulty managing finances. He pulled up more photos. Here, she emailed him the draft. He edited it to make it sound worse. I looked at the forwarded email chain on Tyler's phone. My son, systematically building a case for my incompetence, adding details. Make sure you mention she left the stove on, and maybe say she asked you the same question 3 times. The papers he's carrying, I said. What are they? Power of attorney documents. Brad drew them up. They're fake, like the notary seal is fake, the witness signatures are fake. But Dad said once you sign them, it doesn't matter because no one will check. He said you trust him so completely, you'll sign anything he puts in front of you. He wasn't wrong. A week ago, I would have. Tyler wiped his face with his sleeve. There's something else. Stephanie bought Ambien. She was planning to crush it into your food at Sunday brunch to make you seem more confused. She joked about it being method acting. The ocean kept rolling. In, out, infinite and indifferent. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because you're the only person who ever treated me like I mattered. His voice broke completely. After Mom died, Dad shipped me off to boarding school. You're the one who drove 6 hours every month to see me. You're the one who came to parent-teacher conferences. You taught me to swim, to surf, to cook pasta the way Grandpa used to make it. He turned to face me, tears streaming down his face. You're my grandmother. I can't let them do this to you. I wanted to hug him. I wanted to believe him completely. But trust, once broken, doesn't heal overnight. If I fight back, I said carefully, your father might go to prison. Brad definitely will. You'll lose your college fund, the legitimate one anyway. Are you prepared for that? Tyler nodded. I'll get student loans. I'll work. I don't care. He pulled an envelope from his hoodie pocket. I printed everything. All the text messages, the emails, Stephanie's Pinterest board, the nursing home brochures. It's all here. I took the envelope. It was warm from being against his chest. Thank you, I said. We sat there while the beach filled up around us. Early morning surfers, people walking dogs, a family setting up for a birthday party near the tide pools. Normal life. The life I thought I had. My phone buzzed. Michael's name lit up the screen. Morning, Mom. Just checking in. How are you feeling today? Tyler watched me read it. What are you going to say? I thought about Robert's advice, about the performance I needed to give, about the trap we were setting. I typed, Good morning, sweetheart. A bit tired. I think I forgot to take my vitamins this morning. Or did I take them twice? I can't remember. Getting older is so confusing. 3 dots appeared immediately. Michael was typing fast. Oh, Mom, that's concerning. Why don't Stephanie and I come over for brunch tomorrow? We can help you organize your medications. We've been worried about you. Tyler read over my shoulder and made a disgusted sound. I typed back, That would be lovely. I'll make my cinnamon rolls. Or wait, did we already have brunch this week? My memory is so foggy lately. No brunch this week, Mom. We'll be there at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Love you. He's excited, Tyler said bitterly. He thinks you're falling for it. Good. I stood up, my knees protesting the cold, because the more confident he is, the more mistakes he'll make. The rest of Saturday I spent with Robert in his office, going through every piece of evidence Tyler had provided. Text messages between Michael and Brad discussing the timeline. Emails from Eleanor with subject lines like medical assessment, draft 3. Screenshots of Stephanie's Google searches. How to declare someone incompetent in California. Power of attorney for elderly parents. Sell house fast Ocean View, CA. This is better than I hoped, Robert said, organizing documents into labeled folders. We have premeditation, conspiracy, intent to commit fraud, elder abuse, and Brad's parole violations all documented. What about the judge, Judge Harrison? I'm handling that separately. I've got a call into the California Judicial Council. If Harrison is accepting money to rubber stamp incompetency orders, his career is over. My phone kept buzzing. Michael checking in. Stephanie sending me Pinterest pins of beautiful senior living communities. Translation, expensive prisons. Even Eleanor called, her voice dripping with false concern, asking if I'd been forgetting things lately. Each time, I played my part. Confused Margaret. Forgetful Margaret. Poor, declining Margaret, who needed her family's help. I left the stove on yesterday, I told Eleanor, lying smoothly. And I couldn't remember if it was Thursday or Friday. Oh dear, Eleanor cooed. Have you considered getting evaluated? I know a wonderful doctor. That's so kind, but Michael is handling all that. He's such a good son. After I hung up, Robert looked at me with something like admiration. You're terrifyingly good at this. I spent 40 years as a nurse. You learn to read people, to give them what they expect to see. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. They want to see a confused old woman? I'll give them the performance of a lifetime. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked through the beach house touching things, the kitchen table where I'd helped Michael with homework, the living room where we'd opened Christmas presents, the deck where Thomas proposed to me 43 years ago. Tomorrow they'd come with their fake papers and their Ambien and their concerned faces. They'd try to steal all of this. They'd try to erase me while I was still breathing. But I had Tyler's evidence. I had Robert's legal expertise. I had the security footage and the text messages and every piece of their conspiracy documented and ready. My phone lit up one more time. Michael's final text of the night. Looking forward to tomorrow, Mom. We have some important things to discuss about your future. We love you so much. Sleep well. I stared at those words. We love you so much. 3 days ago, I would have believed them. I texted back, love you too, sweetheart. See you at 11. I'll try to remember to take the cinnamon rolls out of the oven this time. Then, I forwarded the entire text chain to Robert with a single word. Evidence. The trap was set. Tomorrow, my son would walk into it thinking he was the hunter. He had no idea I'd become something far more dangerous than prey. I'd become the predator waiting in the tall grass, patient and cold-blooded and ready. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting. The cinnamon rolls were perfect. That's what 30 years of making them every Sunday will do. You learn the exact moment to pull them from the oven when the edges are golden and the centers still soft. The smell filled the beach house, mixing with the dark roast coffee I'd brewed in Thomas's old percolator. I'd set the dining table with the good china, the Wedgwood pattern we'd received as a wedding gift, cloth napkins, fresh flowers from the garden, orange juice in crystal glasses. Everything a devoted grandmother would do for her beloved family. Everything a confused old woman might forget she'd already done. I checked my reflection in the hallway mirror. I'd put my sweater on inside out, applied lipstick slightly crooked, left my reading glasses on top of my head while searching for them earlier in a text to Michael. Small details, the kind of things that would confirm their story. The doorbell rang at exactly 11. Coming, I called, shuffling to the door slower than necessary. Oh my, is it 11 already? I could have sworn you said noon. Michael's smile was warm and concerned as he stepped inside, Stephanie close behind. He wore his expensive casual clothes, the cashmere sweater I'd bought him, designer jeans, Italian loafers. Stephanie was in athleisure, looking like she was about to film content for her followers. It's okay, Mom. Michael kissed my cheek. His cologne was overwhelming. We said 11, but it doesn't matter. We're just happy to see you. Something smells amazing, Stephanie said, her voice hitting that breathy, fake sweet tone she used when she wanted something. Did you make your famous cinnamon rolls? I think so, unless I made them yesterday. I can't quite remember. I led them to the dining room, noting how Michael's eyes swept the space, cataloging, appraising, calculating what it would sell for. The house looks wonderful, Mom, he said, but it's so much space for one person. Don't you ever feel overwhelmed? Sometimes, I admitted, pouring coffee with a deliberately shaky hand. I was looking for my keys yesterday for an hour. Turned out they were in the refrigerator. I laughed, the sound fluttery and embarrassed. Can you imagine? Michael and Stephanie exchanged a glance. I caught it in my peripheral vision, that look of satisfaction. See? Their eyes said. She's worse than we thought. That must be scary, Stephanie said, reaching across the table to pat my hand. Her nails were perfect, gel manicured, the same color as my good china. Forgetting things like that. It is, I said softly. I'm glad you're here. I wanted to talk to you both about my future. I'm worried I'm becoming a burden. Michael leaned forward, his expression perfectly calibrated to show concern. If I didn't know better, I'd believe he cared. You could never be a burden, Mom, but Stephanie and I have been thinking, maybe it's time to make some changes, to make sure you're safe and cared for. Let me get the orange juice, Stephanie said, standing up. I'll bring the cinnamon rolls, too. I watched her disappear into the kitchen, heard the refrigerator open, the clink of the juice pitcher, and then a pause, just a few seconds, where there was no sound at all. When she returned, she was smiling. The orange juice sloshed in the pitcher as she poured it into our glasses. Hers, Michael's, mine. Here we go, she said brightly. Nothing like fresh OJ with breakfast. I lifted my glass. So did Michael, but I didn't drink. Not yet. Actually, I need to use the restroom first, I said, standing abruptly. All this coffee. Getting old means your bladder doesn't work like it used to. In the bathroom, I poured the orange juice down the sink and refilled the glass with water from the tap. Then I waited, counting to 60, before flushing the toilet and returning. Stephanie was texting rapidly under the table. Michael was cutting a cinnamon roll into precise pieces, not eating, just waiting. So, Michael said as I sat down, Mom, Stephanie and I brought some paperwork. Nothing serious, just some documents to help organize your affairs, make everything easier to manage. He pulled a folder from his messenger bag. The leather was expensive, a birthday gift from me last year. The irony wasn't lost on me. What kind of documents? I asked, my voice uncertain. Just a power of attorney. It means I can help with your finances if you ever need me to, pay bills, handle investments, that sort of thing. He slid the papers across the table. It's what most families do when their parents reach a certain age. I picked up the papers with trembling hands. The forgery was good. I'd give Brad that much. The notary seal looked real. The witness signatures were neat and official looking. I don't know, I said slowly. This seems complicated. Maybe I should have my lawyer look at it first. Your lawyer? Michael's smile tightened just a fraction. Mom, Robert charges $400 an hour. This is simple stuff. I'm just trying to help you. You trust me, don't you? Of course I trust you, I said. You're my son. Then sign. He placed a pen in my hand. Right here and here and here. I held the pen over the first signature line. My hand was shaking, not from fear, but from rage I was barely containing. This was it. The moment he'd been planning for months. The moment he thought he'd won. The doorbell rang. Michael's head snapped up. Are you expecting someone? I don't think so, I said, starting to stand. Maybe it's Tyler? I think I might have told him to come by. Or did I dream that? I'll get it, Michael said quickly. Too quickly. He didn't want me answering my own door, talking to anyone before he'd secured those signatures. But I was already moving, faster than I'd moved all morning. The confused shuffle was gone. My hand was steady on the doorknob. Tyler stood on my porch. Behind him, Robert Chen. Behind Robert, 2 men in FBI windbreakers and a woman in a Department of Corrections uniform. Grandma, Tyler said, his voice carrying into the house. I brought some people who need to talk to Dad. Michael appeared behind me. I felt him freeze when he saw the badges. Margaret? Robert said formally. May we come in? Of course. I opened the door wide. I've been expecting you. The transformation on Michael's face was instantaneous. Confusion. Fear. the beginning of understanding that something had gone very, very wrong. "What's going on?" Stephanie appeared from the dining room, phone still in her hand. She saw the FBI agents and went pale. "Michael? Mr. Hayes," one of the FBI agents said, stepping inside. "I'm Special Agent Rodriguez. We need to ask you some questions about attempted financial fraud and elder abuse." "This is insane," Michael said, his voice rising. "I'm trying to help my mother. She's confused. She's forgetting things." "Actually," I said quietly, "I'm not confused at all." Every eye turned to me. I pulled the flash drive from my cardigan pocket. "Did you enjoy the Bordeaux Friday night? The $200 bottle you ordered on my credit card after I left?" Michael's face drained of color. "I have security footage of your entire conversation. Every word about the fake dementia evaluation, the forged power of attorney documents, your plans to sell my house and put me in a nursing home in Fresno." I turned to Agent Rodriguez. "It's all on here, along with text messages, emails, and a very interesting Pinterest board." "Mom," Michael started. "Don't." The word came out sharp as broken glass. "Don't call me Mom. Don't pretend this is a misunderstanding. I watched you, Michael. I watched you laugh about my confusion. I watched you plan to drug me to make me seem worse. I watched you count my money like I was already dead." "Where's Brad Thornton?" the parole officer asked. I don't know," Michael stammered. "Why?" "Because Mr. Thornton violated his parole conditions by participating in fraudulent financial schemes targeting an elderly victim," she said. "We have a warrant for his arrest." Stephanie's phone slipped from her hand and clattered on the hardwood floor. Robert stepped forward, holding his own folder. "I have emergency power of attorney over Margaret's affairs, backdated to last week and properly notarized. Any documents you're carrying, Mr. Hayes, are legally worthless, as is the fraudulent medical evaluation provided by Eleanor Whitmore, who will be losing what remains of her nursing credentials by end of business Monday." "And Judge Harrison?" I asked. "The Judicial Council is investigating," Robert said with grim satisfaction. "Your tip about his golf course arrangements with Marcus led to some very interesting discoveries about other families he's helped." Michael sank into the nearest chair. He looked small suddenly, diminished, like a child caught in a lie too big to escape. Stephanie ran for the door, but Agent Rodriguez blocked her path. "Ms. Parker Hayes, we're going to need you to stay." "This is entrapment," Stephanie hissed. "She tricked us." "No," I said, my voice cold and clear. "You tried to steal from me, to erase me, to lock me away like unwanted furniture. I simply refused to be a victim." Tyler stood in the doorway, tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry, Dad, but Grandma's right. What you were doing, it was wrong." Michael looked at his son, then at me. For just a second, I saw something real in his eyes. Shame, regret, or just the fear of consequences. "The cinnamon rolls are getting cold," I said into the silence. "What a waste." Agent Rodriguez cleared his throat. "Mr. Hayes, you need to come with us to answer some questions. You have the right to remain silent." As they read Michael his rights, as Stephanie sobbed and fumbled with her phone trying to call a lawyer, as the beach house I'd built with Thomas filled with strangers documenting my son's betrayal, I felt something unexpected. Not triumph, not satisfaction. Just a vast, echoing emptiness where my family used to be. The house felt too big after they all left. I sat at the dining table, looking at the untouched cinnamon rolls, the cold coffee, the crystal glasses still filled with orange juice that Stephanie had poisoned with Ambien. The FBI had taken photographs of everything, evidence of a crime that almost succeeded. Tyler sat across from me, his face blotchy from crying. We hadn't spoken since the agents led Michael and Stephanie away in separate cars. What was there to say? "I should have told you sooner," he finally whispered. "Months sooner. You told me when it mattered." I reached across the table and took his hand. His fingers were cold. "You're 18, Tyler. Your father put you in an impossible position. He's going to hate me forever. Maybe." I squeezed his hand. But you did the right thing. That matters more. Robert had stayed behind to explain the legal ramifications. He sat in Thomas's old chair, the one by the window overlooking the ocean, and laid it out in his careful, methodical way. Brad Thornton is already back in custody. Parole violation plus new fraud charges. He's looking at 6 to 8 years minimum. Robert checked his notes. Michael and Stephanie are facing conspiracy to commit elder abuse, attempted fraud, and forgery. If convicted, they're looking at 3 to 5 years each. My son, my only child, in prison. The thought should have hurt more than it did. Maybe I was numb. Maybe some betrayals cut so deep you can't feel them anymore, like frostbite killing the nerves. Eleanor Whitmore, I asked. The California Board of Nursing is revoking her retired credentials. She can't claim any medical authority ever again. Plus, she's facing her own fraud charges for the fake evaluation. Robert's smile was grim. And Judge Harrison has been suspended pending investigation. The Judicial Council found 3 other cases where he rubber-stamped questionable incompetency orders for Marcus's clients. Good, I said. The word felt hollow. Tyler stood up abruptly. I need some air. Is that okay, Grandma? Of course, sweetheart. I watched him walk out onto the deck, his shoulders hunched against the ocean wind. 17 years old when his mother died, 18 now, watching his father destroy himself. How much could one person carry? What about you, Margaret? Robert asked gently. How are you holding up? I looked around my house, the family photos on the walls. Michael at 6, gap-toothed and grinning. Michael at 16, awkward in his prom tuxedo. Michael at 25, holding newborn Tyler with such tenderness I'd cried taking the picture. I don't know who that person was, I said. The man in those photos. Because the Michael I saw on that security footage, he's a stranger. People change. Sometimes they become who they always were underneath. And we just didn't want to see it. Maybe Robert was right. Maybe the entitled child I'd overindulged had simply grown into an entitled man. Maybe every excuse I'd made, every bailout, every check I'd written to cover his failures had built this monster $1 at a time. What happens next? I asked. That's up to you. 1 week later, I sat in Robert's office signing papers that would reshape my entire estate. The beach house goes into an irrevocable trust, Robert explained, sliding documents across his desk. Tyler is the sole beneficiary. He can't access it until he's 25. But it will pay for his education, living expenses, and eventually be his property. Michael and Stephanie can't touch it. Ever. I signed. The pen felt heavy in my hand. Your liquid assets, the savings, the investment accounts, the money market funds. You wanted those donated? To the Single Mothers Foundation, I confirmed. Every penny. Thomas and I built that wealth together, and I raised Michael alone after Thomas died. It seems fitting. That's $1, 4 million, Margaret. I know. Robert studied me over his reading glasses. You're keeping enough to live on? The pension from my nursing career, the Social Security, the rental income from the properties in my name. I'll be fine. More than fine. Comfortable. I don't need millions, and I won't leave them for Michael to inherit after I'm gone. What about the cars? The credit cards? Michael's BMW is in my name. Repossess it. The credit cards I've been paying for him and Stephanie, canceled as of Monday. The apartment lease I've been covering, I sent notice I won't be renewing. Robert made notes. Stephanie's already seeing consequences. Her social media presence is suffering. I'd posted the truth 3 days ago, not the security footage, that was evidence. But a simple statement. My son and his wife attempted to have me declared incompetent so they could steal my home and assets. They planned to drug me and lock me away in a nursing home. I am not senile. I am not confused. I am a mother who was betrayed by the child she raised. The post went viral. Stephanie's followers abandoned her in droves. Her sponsorship deals vanished overnight. Someone found her Pinterest board, Coastal Dreams, filled with photos of my house, and exposed it. Her comments section became a wasteland of disgust and mockery. Good, I said, and meant it. Michael's real estate license is under review, Robert continued. The state board doesn't like fraud convictions, and his business partnership with Brad is obviously dissolved. Everything Michael had built, or rather everything I'd bankrolled, was crumbling. The apartment, the car, the lifestyle, the business, the wife, all of it falling apart because I'd stopped being the endless bank account. Do you feel guilty? Robert asked. No, I said. Then, more honestly, sometimes, late at night. But then I remember him laughing about my confusion, about planning to drug me, about selling the house Thomas built. I shook my head. You can't betray someone who's already dead to you. 2 weeks after the confrontation, the doorbell rang at dusk. I almost didn't answer. Tyler was at the library studying for his SATs. I was alone in the house making soup from Thomas's old recipe, the kitchen windows steamed and the radio playing classical music. But something made me open the door. Michael stood on my porch. He looked terrible, unshaven, wearing clothes I didn't recognize, probably borrowed. The BMW was gone. He'd taken the bus, I realized. My son had taken the bus to my house. Mom, he said, his voice cracked on the word. Don't call me that. Please, 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside. He walked into the house like a ghost visiting his old life, touching nothing, just looking. Stephanie left me, he said finally, the day after I posted bail. She took everything we had left and moved back to Arizona. I'm not surprised. Brad's in prison. Eleanor won't return my calls. Judge Harrison is probably going to be disbarred. Michael sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. My lawyer says I'm looking at 3 years minimum if we go to trial. You tried to steal my life, Michael. There are consequences for that. I know. He looked up at me, and for the first time in years, maybe decades, I saw genuine emotion in his eyes. Not manipulation, not performance, real shame. I know what I did. I know what I am. Do you? I'm a failure. I've always been a failure. Every business I touch dies. Every relationship falls apart. And instead of dealing with that, instead of being a man about it, I blamed you. His voice was shaking. I blamed you for spoiling me, for making everything too easy, for being too generous. When the truth is, I'm just weak. I'm greedy. And I was willing to destroy you to avoid facing that. The soup was boiling over on the stove. I could hear it hissing. I didn't move. Why are you here? I asked. Because I need you to know I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. Not sorry I got caught, sorry for what I did, for what I became. He stood up, kept his distance. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect you to drop the charges. I just needed you to hear me say it. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so desperately sorry. The classical music played on. Vivaldi, Thomas's favorite. Sorry doesn't give me back my family, I said quietly. Sorry doesn't give Tyler back his father. Sorry doesn't erase the moment I watched you laugh about my dementia on that security footage. I know. But, I said, the word surprising me as it left my mouth, sorry is a start. Michael looked at me with something like hope. Here are my terms, I said. You divorce Stephanie immediately. You plead guilty to the charges. You don't drag this through trial forcing me to testify. You go to therapy, real therapy, not some court-ordered nonsense. And when you get out of prison, if you're serious about changing, there's a job waiting for you at my charity. Minimum wage, real work, no special treatment. You'd give me a chance? His voice was barely audible. I'm giving you a chance to earn redemption. Not forgiveness, not trust, redemption. I moved toward the kitchen to save my soup. One chance, Michael. You throw it away and we're done. Forever. I won't waste it, he said. I swear to God, Mom, I won't waste it. We'll see. He left a few minutes later. I watched him walk down Cypress Drive toward the bus stop, shoulders hunched, hands in his pockets. Smaller somehow, more human. Tyler came home an hour later and found me sitting in the dark, soup forgotten, staring at the ocean through the living room windows. "You okay, Grandma?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Your father was here." Tyler tensed. "What did he want?" "To apologize. To maybe, possibly begin the very long road back to being human." "Do you believe him?" I thought about Michael's face, the shame in his eyes, the brokenness in his voice. "I want to," I said. "God help me, I want to." Tyler sat beside me on the couch. We watched the waves together, the endless Pacific rolling against the shore, washing everything clean and making it dirty again in the same breath. Maybe that was all life was. Waves of betrayal and redemption, crashing against each other, never quite resolving. Maybe that was enough. 3 months later, winter came to Ocean View. The Pacific turned steel gray and angry, waves crashing against the cliffs with enough force to shake the windows of the beach house. I'd hung Christmas lights on the deck railing, something I hadn't done since Thomas died, and they swayed in the December wind, casting colored shadows on the whitecaps below. Tyler's college acceptance letter sat on the kitchen counter. Stanford. Full scholarship, funded by his trust. He'd cried when he opened it, and so had I, but for different reasons. He was crying from joy. I was crying because I'd almost lost the chance to see this moment. "Grandma, you're going to burn the cookies," Tyler called from the living room where he was assembling a new bookshelf, something he'd insisted on buying with money from his part-time job at the surf shop. I pulled the gingerbread from the oven just in time. The smell filled the house, mixing with pine from the small tree Tyler had dragged home last week. It wasn't the elaborate Christmas I used to host when Michael was young, but it was honest, real. My phone buzzed, an email from Robert with the subject line, "Final update. Margaret, Brad Thornton, 7 years, eligible for parole in 5. Currently at Soledad State Prison. Stephanie Parker Hayes. Fled to Arizona, charges pending but complicated by jurisdiction issues. Her social media accounts are defunct. Last I heard, she's working retail. Eleanor Whitmore. Pled guilty to fraud, received 18 months probation and $50,000 fine. Nursing credentials permanently revoked. She's moved to Oregon. Judge Harrison. Disbarred. 3 additional cases of corruption discovered. Currently facing federal charges. Michael. Completed his plea agreement, currently serving at minimum security facility, eligible for release in 11 months with good behavior. Your charity work is making a real difference. The Single Mothers Foundation helped 47 families last quarter. Robert. I read it twice, then deleted it. The past was the past. What mattered was what came next. "Grandma?" Tyler appeared in the kitchen doorway, holding his phone. "Dad wants to know if he can call you tonight. Is that okay?" Michael had been calling once a week from prison. Short conversations, awkward. He'd talk about his therapy sessions, the books he was reading, the other inmates he'd met. I'd talk about the charity, about Tyler's college applications, about the weather. We never talked about what he'd done. There was too much to say and not enough words in the language to say it. "Tell him 7 o'clock, I said. Tyler typed the message, then looked at me. "You don't have to, you know. You don't owe him anything." "I know. I arranged the gingerbread cookies on a cooling rack. But I'm not doing it for him. I'm doing it for me, and maybe a little bit for your grandfather. Thomas would have wanted me to try." "Grandpa would be proud of you," Tyler said softly, "for everything, for fighting back, for surviving." I thought about Thomas, about the man who'd proposed to me on the deck of the captain's table 43 years ago. What would he think of all this? His son's betrayal, his widow's revenge, the family shattered and slowly, painfully being glued back together? "Your grandfather always said family was everything," I said. "I'm just not sure he meant it the way I used to think he did." 11 months later, on a Tuesday morning in November, Michael walked out of Central Valley Correctional Facility. I picked him up. He'd asked Tyler to do it, but Tyler had classes, and besides, this felt like something a mother should do. Even a mother whose son had tried to destroy her. He looked smaller in his civilian clothes, jeans and a plain t-shirt I'd sent him. Thinner, older. His hair was graying at the temples. When had that happened? "Mom," he said, climbing into my Lexus, the same car he'd tried to take from me. "Michael." We drove in silence for 20 miles. The landscape rolled past, brown California hills, sparse trees, the occasional farmhouse. Everything looked tired in the late autumn light. "I start at the foundation tomorrow," he said finally. 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, intake coordinator, minimum wage. I know, I approved the hiring. Right. He stared out the window. "Thank you. For that. For the chance. Don't thank me yet. The women you'll be helping. They've been betrayed too. By husbands, by family, by the system. They're going to look at you and see every man who ever failed them. I know. You're going to have to earn their trust, and mine, every single day. Do you understand that?" "Yes, ma'am." We stopped for coffee at a diner off Highway 99. The place was nearly empty, just us and a couple of truckers at the counter. Michael ordered black coffee and toast. I remembered when he used to order elaborate lattes and eggs Benedict. Everything excessive, everything on my dime. "I saw Stephanie," he said, stirring sugar into his coffee. "Or rather, she sent me divorce papers in prison. She's engaged to some guy in Scottsdale, a dentist." "I'm sorry. I'm not." He took a sip. "She was right to leave. I was using her the same way I was using you. Everyone was just a resource to me, a means to an end. And now? Now I don't know what I am, but I'm trying to figure it out." He looked at me directly for the first time. "I know you don't trust me. I know you might never trust me, but I'm going to show up, every day, to the job, to therapy, to being a decent human being. I'm going to show up. That's all I ask." We finished our coffee, paid the check, walked back to the car. The sky was getting dark, clouds rolling in from the west, promising rain. "Tyler's doing well at Stanford," I said as we merged back onto the highway. "He's studying environmental science, wants to work on ocean conservation." Michael's face softened. "He always loved the water. I taught him to swim at your house. Do you remember?" "I remember. I threw all that away. My son, my mother, the house, everything that mattered." His voice cracked. "For what? For money I would have squandered anyway?" "For fear," I said. "You were afraid of failing, so you tried to take instead of earn. I'm still afraid. Good, fear keeps you honest." Christmas Eve came cold and clear. I'd debated whether to invite Michael. Tyler had left it up to me. "It's your house, Grandma. Your holiday. Your call." In the end, I'd sent him a text. "Dinner at 6. Don't be late." He arrived at 5:45, holding a bottle of sparkling cider and a small gift wrapped in newspaper, all he could afford on his minimum wage salary. Tyler opened the door, and the two of them stood there for a long moment, father and son, separated by a year of prison and betrayal and slow, painful growth. "Hey, Dad," Tyler said. "Hey, kid." They hugged, briefly, awkwardly. Progress. I'd made Thomas's traditional Christmas Eve dinner, cioppino, sourdough bread, roasted vegetables. The same meal I'd ordered at the captain's table that night, 15 months ago, when my world ended. We sat around the dining table, the good china back in the cabinet, simple everyday plates instead. The Christmas lights on the deck swayed in the ocean breeze. Somewhere down the beach, someone was setting off early fireworks. "Should we say grace?" Tyler asked. I almost laughed. We'd never been a religious family. But Tyler was looking at me with such earnest hope that I nodded. "You do it," I said. Tyler took my hand, took Michael's hand, the circuit completed. "Thank you for this food," Tyler said softly. "Thank you for this family, even though it's broken. Thank you for second chances. Thank you for Grandma's strength and Dad's effort. Thank you for Grandpa Thomas, who we miss. And thank you for teaching us that love isn't just forgiveness. It's boundaries and consequences and the choice to keep trying even when it's hard. Amen. Amen, Michael whispered. Amen, I said. We ate. The cioppino was good, maybe better than I remembered. Michael asked Tyler about his classes. Tyler told stories about his roommate, about marine biology labs, about weekend trips to San Francisco. Michael shared careful, edited stories from the foundation, women he'd helped connect with resources, children he'd seen smile for the first time in months. I watched them talk and thought about the security footage, about Michael laughing at my dementia, about the nursing home brochures, about how close I'd come to losing everything. But I'd fought back. I'd refused to be erased. And now, impossibly, we were here. 3 people bound by blood and damage, trying to find our way back to something that resembled family. After dinner, we walked out onto the deck. The ocean was calm tonight, reflecting moonlight like scattered diamonds. Tyler stood between us, hands on the railing, staring at the infinite Pacific. "Grandpa proposed to Grandma out here," Tyler said. "Right, Grandma? 44 years ago, on this deck. The sun was setting and he'd burned the stakes and everything was perfect." Michael touched the railing, the same wood Thomas had sanded and stained himself. "I'm sorry I almost took this from you, Mom. This house, these memories, everything. I know. Will you ever forgive me?" I thought about that question, really thought about it. Forgiveness was complicated. It wasn't a switch you flipped. It wasn't a gift you gave all at once. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but I'm trying. Every day I'm trying." "That's enough," Michael said. "That's more than I deserve." We stood there, 3 generations of Hayes family, watching the waves roll in and out. The ocean didn't care about our drama. It just kept moving, kept breathing, kept existing despite everything. Maybe we could too. Tyler's phone buzzed. He checked it and smiled. "My friend Emma wants to know if I'm coming to the bonfire on the beach tonight." "Go," I said. "Have fun. Be young." He hugged me, then hesitated before hugging Michael. "See you tomorrow, Dad." "I'll be at the foundation at 9. Maybe you could stop by after your surf shift?" Yeah, I'd like that." Tyler disappeared inside, grabbed his jacket, and vanished into the night. His footsteps echoed on the wooden stairs down to the beach, then faded. Michael and I stood alone on the deck. "I should go too," he said. "I've got a bus to catch." "Michael," I said, stopping him. "The trust, the money I donated, the house going to Tyler. That's all permanent. It doesn't change if you do well at the foundation or if we rebuild our relationship. I know. I need you to know I did it to protect myself, to protect Tyler, not to punish you." He nodded slowly. "It's what I deserved, what I still deserve. You don't owe me anything, Mom. Not inheritance, not forgiveness, not even these dinners. The fact that you're trying, that's grace I don't deserve." "Maybe that's what family is," I said. "Grace we don't deserve but get anyway, if we're willing to do the work." "I'm willing," Michael said. "For however long it takes, I'm willing." He left a few minutes later, walking toward the bus stop like he'd done that day months ago. But his shoulders were straighter now, his step a little lighter. I stayed on the deck, wrapped in Thomas's old cardigan, watching the ocean. Somewhere down the beach, Tyler's laughter carried on the wind. He was young, undamaged, free. Because I'd fought for him, because I'd refused to let them destroy what Thomas and I had built. The Christmas lights swayed, the waves rolled, the house stood solid behind me, mine again, truly mine. I'd lost my son to greed and found him again in humility. I'd lost my trust in family and found it again in boundaries. I'd lost my faith in automatic love and found it again in earned respect. The journey wasn't over. Michael had years of work ahead. I had years of careful, guarded hope. Tyler had a future that was finally, completely his own. But we were still here, still breathing, still trying. And in the end, that was the only revenge that mattered: survival. Not as victims, but as people who refused to let betrayal be the end of their story. The ocean kept rolling. I kept standing. That was enough.